today. So our next caller is Daniel, he, him from Missouri, who has a child who has come out about transitioning potentially, and they need some advice. So Daniel, he, him, you're live on the line. How's it going?
Going pretty good. How are y'all?
Living the dream.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep,
There's a little bit of a delay, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yep. But yeah, lay it out for us. What do you got?
So I was calling, my wife and I, one of our children wrote us a letter just trying to say that they don't like being a girl. They don't feel like a girl. And they want to try transitioning to he, him. And it's like when I looked up videos online of like what to do when your child comes out as trans, a lot of them were like saying basically, hey, would you rather have a trans child or a dead child? Which I think is a good point. But my wife and I, that's not the issues that we have, or the fears that we have, rather. Like, our fears aren't that we couldn't accept them as transitioning. Our fears are more of the timing of it isn't ideal because of the current administration. And so we're really, stressed and scared of what that would look like, transitioning would look like in this current era, and what steps we need to take or should take to help them along that path.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, it's a really big change to have to deal with as a family. Obviously, it's a big deal for your kid to spend all this time writing this letter, probably some amount of anxiety that went into that. And then you as parents having this feeling of like, oh, I don't want life to be harder for my kid. And now you have all these additional fears that you didn't have before about like, is my kid going to get accepted? And you live in Missouri where they have outlawed gender affirming care for minors. So like wondering what is the next step. I completely understand that feeling of like feeling uncertain and not sure where to go from here. I always try to say, with kids, you want to let them kind of lead the way and offer them options, and trying to be honest and clear with your kid about expectations given the surrounding situation. Like you can determine what's age appropriate for your children, obviously. Like, the best way to approach this of like, how can I protect them from all of that like hatred and vitriol while also making sure that they have a rock solid foundation at home. Like, that's going to be the thing that is ultimately most important, is that they understand from your perspective, like you want to protect them as a parent and you want to help shepherd them to making good decisions that are going to be like, they're happy and they're safe. So if you're like, listen, I don't know if it's going to be possible for us to get you any kind of hormones, where we should start with this is we can absolutely call you by a new name and pronouns at home as a let's try this out kind of thing. And if they're interested in exploring the haircut, that's another really easy one. If they want to try a different outfit, if they want to wear Axe deodorant, like those are the really easy things you can do to try to just be like, we will get you what you need to feel good about yourself right now. And if this becomes a situation where you're more adamant in a year or two that medical intervention needs to occur, then we can explore other options. But it's going to require you to travel out of state with the way that things are right now. So I'll let Ben jump in.
Yeah, that's a super rough thing. And yeah, I co-sign everything that Lux was saying. Like, start off with that social transition, like even like Lux was saying, keep it at home at first, let them like get comfortable with the idea, like let them kind of figure out who they are. Yeah, try things that are reversible first. And then yeah, that next conversation is much more difficult, because I would also exercise a lot of caution with engaging, like, with mental health and therapy and all that. Like, even though I just said everybody should get it, and I agree that your kid should also get it, but under the current circumstances, it's not as likely to find somebody affirming where you're at that would actually help the situation. And I don't want them to put things on a medical record that could be ultimately problematic for your child. So that's a case too, where
Yeah, and
even
that's
looking
definitely what
into,
we're worried about.
Mhm.
yeah, like looking into like more telehealth based services, um, because as long as somebody is licensed to practice in your state, uh, they can still like reside somewhere else. And I know there are some good like telehealth, psychotherapy, and similar services. I don't know about costs. Like that's kind of a big thing to think about, is like what's covered under insurance, or what are you willing to pay out of pocket for. But kind of whatever you can get telehealth, it's probably going to be the um, safest option. But like that's going to be more the mental health side. It's going to be very, very difficult to do anything medical, and being a minor in that situation, just with how many like specialists you need on board with that. So I think like being honest with your kid, having that conversation of like emphasizing that you support your child, and that like you want them to be safe, and that it might take some time to get all the things that you need, but that you are doing the best that you can with what's available, and with what's safe.
And is there is it a benefit or a detriment to say, hey, right now we probably want to keep this in house, or is it
I think
something that like it's more important to live your truth, everybody else's opinion be damned?
you can let your child kind of lead on this too, depending on how did you say how old your child was?
16.
16. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so they can make the decision of if they want to take this out of the house or just keep it in the house, but like you can present both options and let them know that you are supportive of either one. Kind of the big thing is for their own personal sense of safety, because they are more likely to get harassed out in public. And
Yeah.
it's easier at home to say, I want to try on this name and things, and not have anybody anchor on it. Like it, there are advantages to both sides. So I think let them lead on that, and have that conversation with them and see how they want to handle it. But um, they're old enough that hopefully like they can have a bit more autonomy on where they want to like come out.
And another question that I just have, because I was raised very conservative Christian. You know, I'm very red state. I came out of that a few years ago, but that stuff sometimes can still linger in your mind. And some, I think that some of my fears are probably from that upbringing. And I almost wonder, like, it's not a huge part, but there is a part that it's like, what if I'm, making a mistake and they're just going through some sort of puberty thing of you're not a little kid anymore. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah, you don't want to support your kid in doing something that they may ultimately regret. Like, you would probably not
right,
sign
yeah,
off on your kid getting a tattoo, even though you can. Like, in many states, a 16-year-old can get a tattoo with parental consent, right? But you have to know your kid,
right,
and you have to know whether that decision is gonna bear through. So your kid is old enough at this point to be like, you can have a reasonable conversation and say like, we want to affirm that like underneath everything, we love you very much. We care very much. We want to affirm you in the way that it feels best to you, and we want you to be safe. So here's what we think is like the options, and like describing the options. Like, we can start this at home. Absolutely. No question as to whether we can start this at home. Whether you want to come out at school, do you want to get your name changed so that your correct name is on your diploma in 2 years, right? Like those are all going to be like greater procedural things, like legal document changes and dealing with the administration at the school and everything, like making sure that they understand that that is an additional burden on them as they are entering their junior year in high school, I assume is about the age range that they're in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're dealing with like, what are we going to do after high school graduation? Are we going to go to college? Like, this is a period of time where there's a lot going on for them. So, I completely understand the feeling of like, you don't want to, send them in the wrong direction or anything. But make it clear to them that they can back out at any time as well. That like, you want to encourage their exploration, and that's what this time is perfect for. It's perfect to just like explore, try new things, get some of these, make mistakes and get it out of the way now. Like if cutting your hair, if it turns out that it's like, oh my God, I'm going to have a meltdown and cry because I didn't know that short hair was going to make my chin look so fat. Like, I don't know. There's all kinds of unexpected issues that can come up. And so like making sure that it's like, it may be that you decide to walk back on this, whether that's because you legitimately aren't trans or is because like you do want to wait until the climate is more friendly to that conceptually. Yeah, just making sure that, they know that whatever outcome happens does not change how much you're going to support them or how much you're going to be there for them. And I guess like also try to make sure, because this is the last years of their childhood, basically, make sure that they also still have plenty of opportunities to have fun outside of the context of exploring their gender. Just make sure that like they still get to go bowling and do dumb shit on the weekends, before the full weight of it settles on them when they become an adult. Still like doing everything that you can to protect that for them, like protect their childhood for them for as long as you can, I think is also something that is not talked about very much, but I think is really important for trans kids.
Right.
Yeah,
And are there
I do want to
any?
wait.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead first, and then I can add my piece at the end if I need to.
I was just gonna say, like, are there any resources that I can, or creators perhaps that I can kind of point them to that would kind of help them in that journey that maybe they may be aware of it or may not?
I mean, there's tons of trans masculine people on YouTube. Like plenty of people who make content about like their transition. So it's like 6 months on T, this is what I look like and this is what I sound like and stuff like that. I mean, I don't really know that there are very many now who are actively still doing that, but I know that a few years ago it was something that was more common. A lot of these people who are creators are just like not making transition updates anymore because they're very far in their transition. But like Ty Turner
Right.
had a lot of great videos, where he was, I mean, he still makes content, but like transition related content, and he's very wholesome as well. I used to make transition related content, although I don't anymore, but that's like from a non-binary perspective. So like YouTube is a big thing. There's a good chance that your kid has already been seeking out these things, and like, probably they've also told a couple of their friends about it and everything. So I would not be surprised if they have already kind of been working on educating themselves on those things for them to already be at the stage where they're like writing you a letter. I would say actually ask your kid if there's any content they are watching related to being trans that you could be looped in on, expressing your desire to understand where they are at right now. I think could be a big, like a step toward, you know, expressing interest and making sure that they understand you're on the same page, rather than you being like, here's a trans creator that I decided is a good one that you can check out,
Right.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I was just going to weigh in a little bit more on the medical piece because since your kid is 16, like the options medically are a bit more kind of limited anyway, because you're far along in
Yeah.
your puberty at that point. So something that is probably a bit more comforting as well is that, like, depending on the situation, a lot of this like is like reasonable to have them start like when they're 18. Like there isn't a lot of benefit that they're going to gain from starting it earlier, other than, you know, having that transition start earlier. Like they're probably close to their like final height, like their chest development is probably, you know, where it's going to be longer term. Like a lot of things are kind of settling into place. Kind of the big thing that might be worth talking about earlier, if it's not already in play, is contraception, simply because it is a great way to suppress menses, and it can alleviate a lot of gender dysphoria, but also is kind of a good recommendation for anybody with the possibility of getting pregnant at 16.
Yeah. I highly
And they're,
recommend the arm implant thing. It is very effective.
yeah, Nexplanon's great. Like their
Okay.
options, like, and so just that's a conversation that like your kid can have with their doctor and stuff, and that's probably easier to obtain than like testosterone. But even if your
Yeah.
kid decides that they want to go on testosterone, like they can kind of look forward to finding a way to, you know, maybe go to college or other school outside of the state, finding a place that will allow them to get better care, and pursue that further as an adult. And that's something it's totally okay to start, like, you know, introducing those conversations, but don't feel like, especially for a 16-year-old, don't feel like you have to make all of that happen like in these next couple of years. That can be something that, like, as long as they're, you know, as long as their dysphoria is controlled enough to where they're not a safety risk, or like they don't need emergent intervention on that, like it's something that can wait a little bit for them.
Okay.
And I
Well,
don't know if you're
thank
anywhere
you so
near.
much.
I just want to give you one more recommendation before we move on. If you're
Uh-huh.
anywhere near Kansas City, the Transgender Institute, transinstitute.org, they can point you to resources, and like maybe even hook you up with therapists and things, so that the kid can have like at least an ongoing relationship with a provider. And they help with name and
They're
gender
in
marker
Kansas City?
changes. Kansas City, Missouri. Yep. So it's transinstitute.org, based out of Kansas City, Missouri. And like I think
And
that
that's
there
the
are
only
also
positive
trans.
that we live in Kansas City.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So you
awesome.
live
Otherwise,
in a
Missouri is a
place where
very
there
red
are.
state.
Yeah. So there are resources. There are trans groups as well. I moved from Kansas, and I had a doctor who was licensed in Kansas and Missouri. So like there are providers out there who are going to be able to take that on when they turn 18 and help them with the medical part if they are going to pursue that. But in the meantime, yeah, find groups, find trans affirming therapists and providers, which the Trans Institute could help point you toward. Um, and yeah, just absolutely just making sure that they know that whatever choice they make at home, they're never going to deal with any of the bullshit. Um, when they step out of your house, like you can't help them anymore. You can't control what happens to
Right.
them, but they always have a safe place to come back at home.
Well, thank you so much, and honestly, thank you and everybody else at the line. This show is helping me out a lot. I've listened a lot since they wrote me that letter, and so I really appreciate the opportunity to ask these questions, and just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for being a good parent.
Yeah.
Like honestly,
I
it
try.
is refreshing to be like to have people be like, I'm working through some of my own issues and I'm already ahead of it with the pronouns and stuff. Um, it's
Yeah.
awesome, and I'm glad that your kid has you. So yeah, thank you so much for
Mhm.
calling in, Daniel. If you have any more questions, feel free to call us back in the future. We will be here.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right, bye bye.
Hey, if you liked that clip, you'd love the whole thing. Hit like, subscribe,
Yes.
leave a comment, patreon.com/calltheline. That one sucked. Use it.